Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I am a trained government remote viewer. I also have a degree from the University of Miami in political science. I ran a business very successfully for 30 years. It is still running, being taken over by somebody much more competent than me in business. So it's almost 55 years old, the business. I try to work with a very wide lens, and I work multidimensionally, which has tremendous benefits. And increasingly, I'm going to be talking about this new age that we're coming into because you see, all the traumas that we're in right now, the Epstein files and all the rest of that, those fall under revelations. They fall under the battle between light and dark. And that will be over soon. So I'm already into, with one foot, not both feet, one foot into the next stage, which is supposedly the golden age. Very multidimensional. If you struggle just with four dimensions that we have to deal with normally, there'll be more dimensions. If you struggle with people that don't agree with your point of view, you're going to be really struggling when you have to start dealing with aliens having to do with business, especially if it's a big business. So I'm going to be dealing more and more with that. We are also putting together a new Sigil, Sigil, which is a symbol. It's a new age technology. It's a symbol, but it is a technology. It creates movement. It anchors things. And the symbol, whatever it is that's on it, plus the intention of the person that made it, designed it, or commissioned it to be made, goes into the symbol. So when you use the symbol, you are anchoring particular type energies. So we are at this point in production for a symbol that would anchor the energies that you need to help you to be very stable and successful in business from here forward. And that symbol includes that I that's on the dollar bill. Whoever it is that made the dollar bill, which I don't think were the founding fathers, knew a lot about the other dimensions. And what they wanted was for the wisdom that comes with the third eye, because they put it at the top of a triangle. What they were saying is, we want to anchor wisdom having to do with solar plexus, which is what channels personal power. Most people don't know that. They see the symbol, they don't understand, they think it's a conspiracy. Yes, there was a conspiracy, but it was a worldwide conspiracy to keep normal people from understanding the power that's in the other dimensions. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore. What I'm going to say is I'm very excited, and we will present it here first. And all you have to do is copy it. It doesn't cost any money. And my intention is, with this particular symbol, is that you have protection, and that you're calling in and drawing from the energies that will help you to achieve success in this new era that we're coming into, that we already have 1.5 feet into. But let's go ahead to the map of the United States, which I think I did not yet put up on screen. I didn't bring it into, give me 1 second. Okay, let me get it up here on screen so it'll be easier for you to see it. It's actually really good. I mean, anybody that would look at the news would think, my God, the United States is a mess. No, no mess. No mess. On the contrary, tremendous stability is being created. At least that is what the sketch indicates. Okay, let's go over it. Okay, at the top, I just got a quote, and the meek shall inherit the earth. Whatever it is that might mean, that is in the process of happening. And I think perhaps that with the Epstein files, because it was the big people that were compromised, it's going to be part of the fall of hierarchy that's part of Revelations. Hierarchy is not going to exist now with this new cycle. Hierarchy is based on a triangular structure of power. one guy or very few people at the top, and then everybody else is underneath, and whoever's underneath supports, covers for, takes care of, bows down to the guys at the top. That's the structure of power until very recently. That structure of power has collapsed, and the Epstein release is going to be a big part of it, or maybe the last part of the collapse of that hierarchy of power. We're going into, very appropriately with the New Age, the circle as the structure of power community. So, your new business or the business that you run now that you want to move forward successfully must include community. And I don't mean that the guys at the top take care of the guys at the bottom, because that is the way it was. You're going to need to figure it out and wrap your head around how do you make your business very much about community. The number one way is that you simply don't do business or don't do anything that does not have to do with bettering human life on planet Earth. If you have a product that doesn't make life better for people, you're going to have a very hard time. Now, let's say you're a lawyer. Well, you don't really have a product. Okay. If you're the kind of lawyer that goes after, I don't even want to give an example. You need to figure it out in your profession how it is that you align with these new energies. Anyway, let's continue with the map. You have the double Merkaba, which means double protection, and you have it in purple, the color of the highest order. That means you have the Galactic Federation support. And I think that more and more people are already very aware that Trump works with the Galactic Federation. And it's one of the reasons why, in this time of incredible instability, the United States has stayed stable and, again, either stayed at the top or floated to the top of the power on planet Earth. That depends upon what you believe in and what you've seen. The East Coast is getting a tremendous healing. That's color green. I'm using a different pen. That's the only reason the shade of green is different. It does not include the Carolinas, which is interesting, or Georgia. Huh. A lot of funny business goes on in the Carolinas having to do with experiments on human beings. I don't know if that's what it is. But anyway, Florida's looking really good. The side of Texas that I always say is the Elon part of Texas looks really good. There's a heart in the center. Perfect. Now, what's not sketched on the map, because I really didn't see it till I was setting up this chat, is that right between Pennsylvania and West Virginia, I painted a red circle with a question mark. Now, this is my feeling. My feeling is that documents, US government documents, are held in a building underground in between Pennsylvania and West Virginia. That's where I have the circle sketched right here. And again, I saw that when I had already put up the map. I believe this is going to, it appears, and again, anytime you say future as a psychic or as a prophet, you are going to be wrong a lot of the times, because prophecy is to tell you where you're going to end up if something doesn't change. So it's possible. It's not possible that there's not anything there, because I sketched it and I've been watching myself for decades. Now, once I interpret, I can make mistakes in my interpretation of what I sketched, but not what I sketched. But I believe that there is a holding of documents there in a place between Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and somebody's going to make an attempt, a very small group of very powerful insiders in the US government are going to make an attempt to burn that down, because there's a lot of documents there that have never been shared or seen by other people other than a few government workers and the really bad guys. Now, why would that be important? I don't know. But that's the information that I have. Is it interesting? Not really. But maybe it's information that can prevent something from happening. Maybe that's the information that I have. The bottom of the map is really interesting. There's a rooting going on, and the color is blue. Well, that's not the color of rooting, yet it is the color of the part of us that has so much to do with creation, which is the throat chakra, and the universe and everything was created through sound. In the Bible, it says it was through the word. So we're getting a tremendous rooting, and in the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, it doesn't say deliver us from evil, protect us from evil. It literally says protect us, help us to be in the moment, which means rooted, grounded, landed, not disassociated. Now, unless you heard it from me, you probably did not hear that in this lifetime. Yet those are the original words. And it is true that if you have enough of the earth element, roots, trees, mountains, spirits can't get to you. Why? They don't do well in the physical dimension. The physical dimension is all about the earth element. The aliens have a hard time with the earth element. So you want protection from aliens or from just regular mundane planetary spirits that aren't nice and they can destroy your life, but they're kind of mundane compared to the ones from off planet? You need to get rooted and grounded. But the Lord's Prayer said that. And the United States is doing that. In other words, automatically in its process, the United States of dealing with the reality, with all of the realities that are coming up now of things that people have done to steal, the whole Epstein situation. I can see where somebody in power, whether it's Trump or anybody else, would not have wanted all of this to come out. It's literally going to cut, hit behind the knees of society. The biggest people in society are going to be associated with the Epstein document release. Now, I'm going to do a chat once I collect my thoughts on it as a mind control victim who has been talking about this since 92, not 96. I said 96. I found a letter that I wrote to my children in 92 talking about this. Of course, they did not believe me. And there was no support for them to believe me because there was no knowledge of it. And who the hell wants to believe this? So I ended up, as I would say to people, listen, you have two options when I tell my story. One is I'm lying. Do you know me to be a liar? Basically, everybody will say no. On the contrary, they say I'm too truthful. I'm god awful sometimes to be with because I'll just say it as it is. And I said, okay, so if I'm not a liar, then I got to be mentally ill. I said, do you know me to be mentally ill? And they go, no, you're actually really stable, which is totally true. I said, so then the other option is that what I'm saying is true. Nobody could wrap their head around it. I don't blame them. But at that time, I did not understand how governments and bad people and secret organizations had learned how to make people forget things. In Spanish, that magical ability is called el velo del olvido, the veil of forgetfulness. Like 300,000 kids were lost and nobody could really remember them. Oh, yeah, there were 300,000 kids. And then gone. That veil is a type of black magic that you can describe it as a veil. I guess it's a veil in your memory. And when I look at it to see if I can see symbolically what it looks like a tent, like a big tent. And there's a lot of tables underneath, and there are tables for the Vatican with everything that they hide. We pulled that table out, by the way. There was a table about Francis Fox. We pulled that out also, but it still was sat on. Today is when that table is starting to release stuff, and the first thing it released was a huge black eye of depression, which makes sense. Anyway, so they have learned magic, which is why in this incarnation, I came in to teach white magic. And I have said to everybody that follows me, and I don't say it very much anymore, the place I learned the most about how to create reality was by witnessing through remote viewing what was done to my clients, my families, and me having to do with black magic. I would be in awe of what those people know how to do. I'm even more in awe of this whole, the veil of forgetfulness. So we can run around accusing everybody of everything, but the truth of the matter is that everybody was had this veil, or this would have been dealt with a long time ago. Now, to what point do advertisers use this? I guess it depends upon whether the company is big enough. To what point do companies have the construction of sigils, have their logo be a sigil, not just a logo? To what point do they energize it with intentions that if you found out, you would not want to be anywhere near that product or that label or that icon? We'll be talking more about that at another point, but I think all of that's going to fall apart anyway. So, and we, due to our lack of knowledge of magic, we have set ourselves back. We have not taken good care of our children, of our businesses, of our health, especially our mental health. We have we have thought arrogantly that we are modern, and that does not affect people that don't believe it. Black magic only works on people that are low class, without education, unsophisticated people. Wrong. The most powerful groups on the planet know all about black magic. What I was not that aware of, I guess until like 20 years ago. And I guess I'll give the example and then we will sign off. I don't know if it was 20 or 30 years ago. All of a sudden, from Cuba, all sorts of people were building little boats out of inner tubes and a couple of planks and throwing themselves into the sea to come to the United States, obviously on makeshift floating devices that weren't going to make it to the end of the island, much less to the United States. I'm talking hundreds of people in the space of like 3 days. And I looked at that and my instincts said, there's something weird going on here. No, 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 no. There was nothing unusual happening in Cuba. There was no more desperation. Besides, which just people were going to make it. So it wasn't food, and they're not dumb, but they got dumbed down and they did that. And when I checked, it was a type of virus that was thrown on the people as an experiment to see if they could get them to move in a direction that could literally cost them their lives. And they accomplished it. It's very scary once you start to look at these things. Very, very scary. So I'm going to collect my thoughts having to do with what's coming out in the Epstein files. What I can tell you is, if you don't understand the connection between perverted sex, lack of sex, and off planet enemies, then you're just going to be recycling the concept of, God, there's a lot of sick people out there, sexually sick people. I would tell you the United States is completely sexually sick. Not having sex when it's an instinct, you're not well. Pornography, you're not well. The kids having girlfriend, boyfriend, and they don't have sex, something's going on. And yet nobody is looking at that. Population collapse, not having enough sex. So many things are tied to distortions of the energies of sex. And why aren't people going to the bottom line? Because of that darn veil of forgetfulness. The worst spirits that exist on planet Earth are the incubus and the succubus. Catholic Church has a listing of spirits, and the worst ones, even according to the Catholic Church, that does not usually say truthful things to us that could help us, are the incubus and succubus. And where are they from? They're from Orion. Oh, yeah, some people say that Orion is trying to take down planet Earth. Some people say that. Lots of people who know Know that. You don't know that. Orion and sexuality? What the heck? Doesn't it look like sexual issues are taking down at least the United States? So if you're not willing to look at that, okay, then you'll just deal with the consequences. But you'll never get to the finish line because you have to go to causal. So I'm just putting it out there for the 100th time. I wrote a book called Sex, We Have to Figure This Out. It's on Amazon, it's in English. And it's just a collection of things that I pulled together from years of exchanges with the dolphins and with myself and observations. And the whole thing with the incubus and succubus is right there. And then if you go, okay, so our sexuality is invaded and controlled by what even the Catholic Church thinks are the worst spirits. And then for Orion, and then you look up Orion on the internet, which I haven't done, but I have to assume they say what most of us in metaphysics say. Orion's trying to take down planet Earth. Huh. So then it's, if we didn't have so many sexual issues, then planet Earth would be safer. Yeah, you got it. That wasn't so hard, was it? Now, try to get everybody else to wrap their head around that. You don't even have baseline information. You still think that the enemy is a human being across the table from you, down the block, a company is competing with you. You still think those are your enemies, and those are the ones that are going to take us all down. No, our enemies are off planet, and everybody on planet is not each other's enemy. We're kind of playing out a game with energies that did not originate from us. Anyway, and the Orion connection has to do with matrix implants. We'll go into that another day. Anyway, I'm Francis Fox. This chat gets converted into a podcast, and we're near the end of the bad times. And it would be good if you keep asking why. Why? From what I teach, because it's what I learned, if you have any problem that you have to ask, why did I need this problem? What is it I'm not looking at? What is it I'm not seeing? What is it I need to address? Which means that when your enemies do something god awful to you, they're actually slapping you around so that you wake up and go, why do I need this problem this guy's creating for me, or this company, or this whatever? And then you go to the root cause, which did not start with that person, that human being that you identified as an enemy. Okay, here we go. And check out that, whoever can, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, something there near the border, I believe, or it wouldn't have been both states. Something's going on there, and it's going on now. Between now and Thursday, whatever's going on that needs to be stopped so that it doesn't go on, because if the bad guys think it needs to happen, then you need to stop it from happening. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for